Commissioner Schwab.
Shall we stand and we'll pray and then we'll say the pledge. Father God, we just come before you tonight, and we're grateful for how you just take care of us and you give us the knowledge that we need to have, and I pray that we're guided by that. I pray that you'll be with all these commissioners tonight as they lead our county, and God, I just pray that you'll be out with our first responders that keep us safe in so many different ways. This county is so grateful for those that are out there and doing the jobs, and we just are grateful for that. Be it the rest of us as we converse, as we listen. May everything be civil, and we do this all in your Son's name, Jesus. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. 88.
I'll tell you what, I had some votes of this.
Okay.
I was so glad it wasn't you.
Okay, I'll call the September 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Burleigh County Commission to order. The first thing is a roll call of members.
Commissioner Bakken. Here. Commissioner Schwab.
Yo.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Here.
Commissioner Munson.
Here.
Chairman Bittner.
Here. Next is approval of the agenda. I want to add one item under, after the North Dakota Association of Counties appointing a delegate. The auditor will provide information on that. Anybody else have any additions or subtractions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Consideration of August 18th, 2025 meeting minutes and bills.
Mr. Chair, I had a chance to approve all of the bills this afternoon, and I would move to approve the minutes and bills.
Second.
Motion second to approve the minutes and bills. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. At this point, we'll entertain public comment. It's restricted to Burleigh County residents and landowners, and it's for items that are not going to be discussed during regular agenda items. Anybody have any public comment, please approach the podium and state your name for the record. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comment here, period. And we'll discuss some grand jury indictments information. I take it State's Attorney Lawyer has that.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. I had that added under the public comment because last meeting during the public comments, there was an individual who came up indicating she was putting you on notice that the county was violating the U.S. Constitution by not doing criminal cases through a grand jury indictment, but by processing those through the complaint and information process that's allowed by state law. So I did include or have the documents sent to the auditor to include in your packet. There's an 1884 U.S. Supreme Court case, Hurtado versus California, where the United States Supreme Court took up that very issue as to whether the Fifth Amendment guarantee of a grand jury indictment applies to the states through the 14th Amendment. and it does not. And so the state of California in 1884 it had issued an indictment on a murder case, not an indictment, sorry, but they had charged it through information, not through a grand jury indictment, and the Supreme Court said that that was okay because they were following their state law. I also included the North Dakota Constitution, which was, North Dakota became a state in 1889, so after that law, or after that case was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. And in the North Dakota Constitution, it does say that charges should be brought by grand jury, but then it also goes on to say that the legislature can abolish the grand jury system, which in North Dakota they have. So we are complying with the law, we are charging people appropriately under the law, and we're following the law. So I just wanted to bring that up during the public comment, since that was brought up last meeting.
Commissioner Schwab.
Julie, I want to thank you. I read that 3 times, and I said, it's either lawmakers or lawyers that wrote that thing. What the hell did it say?
It's an 1884 opinion back when attorneys wanted to make sure that people knew you had to go to school to be an attorney, I think, because, yeah, it's very hard to read.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you, Julie, appreciate that.
Constitution been ratified since then? It no longer applies.
Okay, number 6, the consent agenda. Commissioners, you got abatements, amended license request, second access permit, and check replacement. Commissioner Bakken.
There's one item I'd like to just pull for a little bit of discussion.
Okay.
And that's the addition on the Crossroads Tavern.
That's the amended license
Yes.
request?
Yeah.
I was going to pull the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
With the rest of the consent agenda, I'd move to approve.
Second?
motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minus item 6B. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, 6B, amended license request.
So, and I don't believe the sheriff's here this
Yep,
evening.
he's
Yeah,
here.
he's
Okay.
here.
He's here.
Kelly, could you come up, please? I got a couple questions here with the layout for their outdoor area. Do we have any concerns with that from a security perspective and making sure minors aren't getting in there, or from a policing perspective, what that area is going to present?
So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and I had spoke with Chairman Woodcox today, and I believe, I'm not sure if somebody from Crossroads, okay, they are here. We did speak with them prior to this event, or this meeting. So to give you a little background, we became aware of this addition onto Crossroads. At that time, we had conversations with the owners and basically had said we felt this required either a special event permit or a modification to the license because it's a change of what the license was approved. There was some miscommunication at the auditor's office, ultimately where they were told something different. We had corrected that. And then ultimately they did have to cancel an event, I believe, and put in this change to their license. So initially, when we saw the addition and we were briefed on how it would look, at that point, we were told the only entrance and exit was through the main building. And so this is kind of I don't want to say a gray area, but you know, when we look at it from our perspective on approving a liquor license, not approving it, but giving our blessing to it, you know, we're looking at really the parameters of do they meet the requirements to have a license, and on both legally and morally. And so when you get into, you know, fire codes and all of that, you know, that's really not our expertise. And so I know there is a requirement at the state level with their liquor license for that. Our concern, you know, in initially looking at it and going to what you're asking, Commissioner Bakken, was not so much the access control as our question was how do you get people out of there in the event of an emergency if you have to go back through the building. Well, it's my understanding there is a gate on the north side of that can be opened. So from the venue perspective, at this point, you know, it's kind of an awkward position to come before you when we haven't had a problem yet. And, you know, but I think they've done a good job putting this together from our perspective as law enforcement. I guess the only concern I have at this point, and why I asked it to come off the consent agenda, was the question of noise control. And I think this board is going to have to hear from the owners on how they plan to mitigate the noise, because when you have a band inside, it's one thing, but when you have a band in an outside venue, and then we have those residential places in close proximity, that's my concern, is what's going to happen on a Friday or Saturday night when there's a band and we start getting complaints from the citizens living there.
Sheriff, and I know what caught my eye originally was the configuration of what the wall structures are with this, with the containers being used for containment in this case. Do you recall, because previous businesses that were there also had outdoor venues, but, and I attended several of them, they weren't fenced in, they were just concerts out back. You've got a long standing with the Burleigh County Sheriff's Department. Do you recall any issues back then under previous ownership with that configuration? Because the other thing I'm seeing is there's a potential for echo and increasing the noise with the hardscapes that are here now. So were there any concerns, or did you come across any issues in your long and illustrious career?
The plus side is you have a lot of institutional knowledge. The downside is you forget a lot too, over the years. You know, I don't remember. The only thing I remember back when it was, I can't even remember what it was called before Crossroads.
Burnt Creek?
Burnt Creek Club. Thank you. I think those weren't permanent type events outside.
No, they weren't. They were one-off permits.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, and at the same time, I don't think we had the population base in close proximity that we do now. And, you know, one of the things I can say in my years with the department is the expectation of people moving to the country has changed. And, you know, and I think in some ways there is less tolerance for disturbances out there than there was years ago.
We see that with fireworks every year.
You see it with fireworks, you see it with roads, you see it with everything before this board. And so I do think it's going to, I would hope the owners have a plan, and I'm sure we'll hear from them, you know, as far as the sound control and with the type of structure they built. And when you look at it and look at what they put down on their permit, I think it was well thought out, it was well done. They built up the parking lot in that area. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of thought to it. And, you know, like before when we had the issue with the previous owners, you know, and I always say you don't want to come before this board and quash business. I don't think.
Well, that was the other piece of this too, because with the events that potentially could be held here, now we're looking at something on a different scale when it comes to security concerns. Because the noise abatement was one, that was another one, and then the ingress and egress in case of an emergency was my other concern. Those were my three concerns with this. So have you spoke with the owners as far as for event security, and do they have a plan in place for that as well?
Well, we haven't spoke with them directly on that, commissioners. You know, and again, that is something when we look at this, I think it's a great opportunity for their business. And, you know, I got to say, from a personal perspective, when I drove by it the other day, I thought, you know what, that has the potential to be a good thing for their business. Because there's really no venue like that around here.
No.
And, you know, it kind of...
It's a little reminiscent of Sturgis and some of the things
exactly.
that they do on a smaller scale
exactly.
down there, which I think is great for the community.
And I think this discussion is very important tonight, to just kind of get these questions out on the table. Because like I said, it's kind of hard to come before this board before we have a problem and say, okay, I think we got to hold them to task. But I think we got to at least, or not we, you should have some assurances on how they plan to mitigate some of these of our initial concerns going in. And that's where I say, you know, from time to time, I feel like rightfully so liquor licenses get rubber stamped, but we don't know what we don't know with this venue. And I think it could be a very good thing for them. I think it could be a good thing for the community as long as we can mitigate the problems as they pop up.
Well, and that's more my concern too, is not trying to address the problems on the front side, just having at least a plan in place so that as things arise, because I think that was part of the problem with the previous ownership.
Yes.
As problems arise, we can get ahead of them so they don't turn into bigger problems.
Exactly, and I think, you know, that was my point with when we reached out to the owners and said, we'd like to make sure they're at this meeting so this discussion can take place.
So with their, with this permit, we could put a line item in there that says, in the event of this happens, this permit is no longer valid. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think that'd be a state's attorney
Yeah,
question. I think we went through this before where you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, I think it can only be approved or
Can't put
unapproved.
conditions on this thing?
Are you talking about the issuance of the liquor license in general, or are you talking about a special permit?
Special use permits.
So the special use permits are governed by the zoning ordinances, and so if they allow you to put, it just depends on what they apply under and what the zoning ordinance allows.
Do we control frequency or any of that, or?
It depends.
Because I could potentially see
So-
some issues arising with some of the residents around there that might, you know, if it's every weekend, that might be a little overdone. If it's not, because I used to live up the expressway from a business over in Mandan, and that was a funnel right down the road. Got to listen to every concert on my deck at night on the weekends, whether I wanted to or not. So frequency is a concern. So is there any limitations on special use? And we do want to hear from the business owner, because I'd kind of like to hear a little bit of that plan. So as far as special use permits, what are our constraints?
I'd have to review the zoning ordinances.
Okay.
I don't know those off the top of my head.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, so
Commissioners.
I guess before you, excuse me, I guess we don't, this is separate from a special use permit?
Yes.
Yeah, this is a modification.
Yes.
Is, I guess
That's
the
what I
question would be
wanted
for
to-
Mitch, is a special use permit required for doing this? Or is this only a liquor license question?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I believe this would be a liquor license question because really they haven't, they can create outside seating area. And, you know, and that's when they first had this plan to put that in place. You know, that's why we advised them, if this is a one and done event, you know, then a special event permit is probably the right way to go. But it's a modification to their building footprint, so then I think it's a liquor license question, which then become, I would guess, and again, defer to Julie, this becomes more difficult to regulate on an ongoing basis. And I think my understanding of what we went through in the past is we would have to try and mitigate it after the fact, and then if we can't reach a resolution, come back before this board. I don't know if we can put restrictions on the liquor license other than to approve it.
That's correct. And it depends on whether or not, like you said, it's a special event that they're going to do once in a while, or if they're going to change the area of operation, because the sheriff and I had discussed this before. If they're going to make that outdoor area like a permanent part of their facility and then have an outdoor seating area and an outdoor service area, then that would have to be part of the liquor license application as well, because they're expanding where they're serving, indoor and outdoor. And so we had discussed it that way too. So like I said, it depends on what they're asking for and how they're asking for it.
And I believe that's what you have before you is the
Liquor.
liquor license. And I believe, and they'll be able to tell us, they've gone to the state, to the Attorney General. So they've done everything now that they're required to do to what I would say is modify their liquor license.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, my
Commissioner
question
Munson.
would be more for the owners. Planning and zoning approval, EMS approval, fire, have all of those entities looked at this and had an opportunity to review? I mean, if you have you've got restrooms in one of these containers, what kind of plumbing are we dealing with? What else has been done in this facility with these containers? If you've got a bar area, is that just stock tanks with ice and beer? Or what are they serving? And so is there plumbing concerns here, sewer concerns? That would be my thought process as well. But again, that's not what's in front of us. In front of us is the liquor modification of liquor license.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that's where I said, from my perspective, I think in a way, we're getting out of our lane when we start addressing the issues Commissioner Munson brought up. I look at it from the perspective of, can you give them this license, or should you give them this license? And that's where I said the answer is yes. I think they've met
Mitch
that requirement.
Mitch is volunteering his services.
I don't want to interrupt the sheriff here. Bring the lefty up.
Which bar are we talking about?
Crossroads
Crossroads Tavern.
I think that's in the city's ETA.
ETA.
Yeah, so if they're going to be changing the use of this bar, this building, adding more people to it, then, yeah, you're going to have an occupancy change, different levels of occupancy, the amount of people that are in this thing, so it would take probably a building permit too as well to if they need new bathrooms or accommodate all these new people, or a second or third exit, we don't know. So that would be up to upstairs, the building. I would definitely steer them into that direction too, to see if they're going to change the floor plan or the use of the building. And their special use, I don't know if they want a special use up in their planning or not, but,
He's bringing backup with him as well, so.
okay.
Okay, thanks, Mitch. You might as well come on up.
Chairman, Commissioners, Ryan Dykert and James. So to explain a little what we got, we did get a permit for all the wiring. That's about all we did out there. All of the containers are movable. They're just sitting on blocks. There's no plumbing in any of them. We have one that's set up that we think about doing bathrooms in at a future time, and then we'll have to because we'll have to redo how all the septic system works and all of that. So right now it's just storage. So the bars, they're all ice bins. There's no plumbing. There's nothing in there. It's all movable. It's an outdoor space. We want to incorporate it into our liquor license. A big portion of the use of it is for our patrons to go out that way to smoke, hang out outside. Right now, when we get busy, we only have one entrance into the building in the front that's open. Our back entrance is locked. And so people are going out the front and trying to get in the front, and it's creating a little bit of a bottleneck for us to try to ID everybody, make sure that the people coming back in from smoking were already ID'd. So this will allow those people to go out the back, and then the people coming in the front are only people that we need to make sure are legal of age people. So what it does create is we do have to have extra security to make sure that we aren't getting anyone sneaking in from the back. Of course, the shipping containers are 8.5 feet tall. You can scale one of those. You can back a pickup up and jump up. We understand that. So we'll have to have extra security in the back to make sure that there is none of that. We have added extra security cameras in the back as well, and extra lighting, and that's what the electrical permit was for. Are we planning to do most of the events? I would say that we'll be doing our live bands. So it's a little different than having a DJ there. DJs, they bring in big speakers and really blast, and that's kind of what happened, I think, at the place you were talking of. They had a lot of DJ events, and you really can turn those up. With a band, you can only beat on drums so hard, and you can only strum so hard. So I don't feel we'll have problems. The shipping containers are hard surfaces, so they will echo, but they will also block and redirect a lot of that noise straight up. There is a lot more houses, but there's no newer houses within the last 20 years within like a half a mile of us. If there is, there'd be very few. Most of them are houses that have been there, and the closest ones are quite a ways away still. I think there's 2 houses that are close that would have been built a number of years ago. So other than that, everybody else is.
And most of that area is going to wind up being business across the road and behind you anyway. Eventually is what the plan is. So as far as bands frequency, just out of curiosity.
Right now, we had 3 bands that were scheduled every other week for September. The first one we brought inside because this kind of sprang up here a couple weeks ago. The second one is scheduled for this Friday. Now, of course, they're all weather permitting. So if it's raining outside, we're going to have them inside. I don't know that bands are expensive. We don't know how it's going to work. A lot of times bands are done earlier. So if the band gets done at 11, it's not like we're playing till 12:45 there as well,
As far as the city, as far as occupancy, are there any changes on the occupancy with this? Because you can draw a much larger crowd with the outdoor space.
Yeah, so regardless of the outdoor space, we can only have so many people inside
the building. But how does that work? I guess I'm remiss on the city side of stuff with the ETA jurisdiction, but is there a gathering code that you have to?
That I don't know.
Because you're still running people through the door, so from a fire perspective, if your building holds 150 people, you're going to be capped at that, whether or not you're shuffling them outside or not, because when the fire marshal looks at it, there's 150 people through the door.
Yes.
So, and there could be 150 people in that building or more. So I'm just kind of curious on.
Yeah, I know our occupancy is 300 for the building. We've never come even close to that, even when we get busy.
But you could have 300 people outside in the concert area, easy.
You could have 300 out there, and
hopefully, because that's a good night.
Yeah, it would be a good night. I don't know if we'd be able to handle all that many with our staff, but I understand what you're saying, and we would have to ensure that we only have our fire capacity inside the building at one time, and that would be, if we did have an event that big, there is a gate on the back that we would have open and then have security there at that gate. So we could keep it separate as 2 separate events. If the outside area is a ticketed event, that could be. But that's something we could get figured out when it comes. One thing I wanted to address, the Sheriff's Department, if there's ever a problem that we have, they reach out. We help them best we can, I believe. And so I think if there's a problem that arises, same thing. We're easy to get a hold of, and we're easy to, we want to.
I just want to make sure we have a good working relationship going forward, because we don't want to repeat the issues we had in a previous ownership. So, and I've heard nothing but good things out there so far. So,
I appreciate it.
So, thank you for your work.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah. What is the plan in case we get a noise complaint?
Well, it would depend what all the characteristics of that complaint are. If the complaint came and said it was too noisy at 12:30 at night, and that was the complaint, is we were playing too late, we can remedy that. If the complaint is that it's only on different nights, we can try to turn down sound. I think we probably have to address it when it comes, so we know what the characteristics of it are. But I'm here to say that on video or wherever, that we're here to work with people. We have a lot of neighbors that come in and enjoy a cold one or some food, and we want to be neighborly to everybody. So if we get a complaint from a neighbor, we take it very serious. I'm gonna have to, I can smell it, it's becoming very serious here too, so. Any other questions from
for
anybody?
Ryan? Not seeing any. Thanks, Ryan.
Hey, thanks, Chairman, thanks, Commissioners.
And Commissioners, to answer your earlier question, since this is a permit to modify the liquor license, yes, you either adopt it or you don't. You can approve it or you don't approve it. If you want to regulate any of the licensees, that's done by ordinance or resolution, which applies then to all liquor licenses. You can't restrict a particular license.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
would this be a modification of the existing one, so the time element, January 1st or whatever, it would be the same, right? Because we're well into the year, so the modification would be only for 6 months or whatever the remaining part of the,
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, yeah, that's my belief going into this, is it
Okay.
would have to be revisited when it's
when they're
time for
renewed.
renewal.
Okay.
Yes, it doesn't extend the liquor license at all. It would just apply to the time that it's been issued already.
Just the modification.
So I guess the clawback in the case of
Yeah.
difficulty or anything would be, okay, well, you're done, right?
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcock?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes, motion carries. Next item is number 7, County Engineer Hall. We got a public hearing on Northridge subdivision and second access permits. Welcome, Marcus.
Good evening, Commissioners. The first item I have is a public hearing with Northridge subdivision. The intent is to conduct a public hearing. After the public hearing, the board will be asked to make a decision on moving forward with this particular project. There is a proposed resolution in your packet. If you do not deem that there was sufficient protest to this particular SAD. Hay Creek Township has requested the Burleigh County create this special assessment district for North Ridge Estates subdivision. What we're intended, or what we're planning on doing out there, is a bunch of patching work and then a microsurface application after that particular project, or the patching is done. North Dakota Century Code does allow us to put a special assessment district together without a petition. It's not very common that we do this. This is only the third one that I've been involved with. In order to alleviate some of the burden on the property owners out in that particular subdivision, Hay Creek Township has decided to allocate some of their general fund money to this particular project, $127,000. As part of that, that would reduce the proposed cost per lot out there to $4,663 is what the proposed cost is. The intent is here to conduct a public hearing. If we had a regular petition-driven kind of SAD, we wouldn't be having this process unless you had at least 60% of the people signing off on that petition. Therefore, in general, you'd not necessarily assume against, but there's at least 40% that weren't, involved in agreeing to this particular thing. You can use the same criteria if 40% of the residents in this particular area voice concerns. You could use that as your criteria not to move forward if more than 40%, or you can use whatever criteria you want, basically, decide to not move forward. So at this point, I would recommend going forward with the public hearing, and then we can deal with any questions that come up as part of that after that. Does the board have any questions at this time?
Commissioner Boston.
So Marcus, what's the total cost of the project?
The total cost of the project, let's see, I got to get on the right page here.
So I'm thinking in terms of 60% on the financial side, so.
Yeah, the total cost of the project is the $668,000.
660, okay.
And then you subtract 127 from that. So what we are asking the residents to pay out there is $540,000 as special assessment.
That's about 80% of the project.
Yeah, I don't know the
Yeah.
percentage at the top, but
Okay.
$4,663 per lot.
that's correct.
So the idea is to schedule a public hearing?
This is a scheduled public hearing. yeah.
And the next Burleigh County Commission meeting is the final budget hearing.
This is the public hearing,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
today.
public hearing.
Okay. Any other questions, Marcus, on this? Okay. Well, this is a public hearing regarding a Northridge Estates subdivision, special assessment district. Anybody wish to speak on this item? This is a public hearing on a special assessment district for Northridge Estates subdivision. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Third and final call. Does anybody wish to speak on this public hearing for the special assessment district? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Marcus, anything else you want to add?
Nope, there is a proposed resolution in the packet, basically that moves us forward. There is other opportunities along the way in a special assessment district. I mean, we're gonna have the plans and specs, and then you'll allow us to go to bids, and then you'll get to see the numbers, and we can decide at that point, this isn't the way we wanna go and stuff like that. Township will be weighing in all along too on this particular process.
Okay. And did we do public notice of this?
Yes, we did do public notice, and then I did also mail the public notice that was put in the paper. I mailed that to each of the individuals that were in the subdivision, or anybody that was going to get an assessment.
Okay, so we're reasonably confident that every citizen got noticed that,
I am reasonably confident that we did our job to try to get that information out to everybody.
okay,
So-
thanks, because
Yep.
it seems unusual for a special assessment district and nobody was here to speak on it.
Yeah.
So Commissioner
So
Schwab.
Marcus, state what you want in layman's terms.
Okay, at this point, basically, the resolution is that the county board finds that there's insufficient protest to reject this special assessment district, and therefore directs the county engineer to go ahead and prepare the plans and specifications, for approval by resolution by the county board. So I'll bring back the plans and specifications once they're prepared.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second on the proposed resolution. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries.
Thanks. The next item I have on the agenda is an appeal of a second approach permit. Jesse Zander from Brookfield Estates requested a second approach permit. In your packet, there shows the lot that he is at and the location, roughly the locations of where the existing approach is at and where the second approach would be at. The first approach is off of the subdivision road. However, the second approach was requested off of 80th Street. And this is to better access his particular property. The highway department rejected the second approach for the following reasons. 80th Street is a county collector, basically a high-speed, high-volume kind of roadway. If this was an older subdivision, so we didn't have a non-access line along 80th, if this plat was going to be approved now, we would have had a non-access line along there. However, we still moved forward and felt that from a safety reason, we didn't want to move forward and grant this particular permit. The highway department does believe that by granting this permit, it does decrease the safety for the traveling public. Therefore, we rejected the request. Jesse has asked to appeal this decision to the county board. I think he's here today, having a little discussion, see where you want to go after that. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thanks, Marcus.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcox.
that exit will be on 80th Street. Have we allowed any other, there's like 11 homes that are on 80th Street. Have any of those tried to have a second access?
Commissioners, not right in this area. However, just north of there, we have a second approach to a property on the east side of the roadway. That particular approach did come before the county board a while back. The highway department did reject it.
That's way up the road.
No, this one's just up the road a piece. By your mother's place,
Yeah.
right across from there? Yeah, it's a little ways away, yeah. That particular request was rejected by the highway department. The county board did review that, and they voted to allow it at a 3-2 vote on that one. Then also way up north, up by 71st, there's also a second approach up there that was allowed. That's been about a year, maybe 2 years ago now. So that's the only ones I know off right off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. That's that's over a mile. but-
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Schwab.
Marcus, how far is that from that intersection? That approach? Do you roughly know?
That's roughly a third of a mile, probably.
Pardon?
About a third of a mile. So,
I just don't like, they've got a main access there and nothing. That isn't the way to control traffic. We're getting these complaints about this bus deal, and here it is.
I think we'll if you want to stand by,
Yep.
we'll hear from the applicant. Jesse.
Yeah, I definitely understand the concern of the congestion there. As far as, I am looking at putting a outbuilding on the back portion of that property. And I guess as far as having access off of Birchcrest, it's, especially with to be able to pull in there with a trailer or, anything larger it's just real tight up there. And there is some mature trees that would need to be moved up there, which, if that's the case, that's the case. But, coming in off 80th, that would be just quick and safe to be able to pull off that road and, say I've got a, fifth wheel camper or something. I can drive off. I'd have plenty of room to, turn around in the yard and drive out. Where, coming in off of the front, it just doesn't really leave me that room when, person starts looking at a larger trailer or anything like that.
Commissioners, any questions for Jesse? Well, I'll tell you what my concerns are, Jesse. First off, I grew up on that road. Like you heard, my mom's place is right up the road from there, and the traffic has certainly got significantly heavier than went on over time. For me personally, I would like to be able to say go ahead and do that, except that when our engineers are pointing out that granting this decreases the safety of the roadway, I'm not able to go along with it, even though I would like to see you be able to do that. It's to me, I have to err on the side of safety. So, Commissioner Buckner.
So if there was a second approach off of Birchcrest, which I'm seeing how tight that would be, are there any constraints from your septic or that are in the way, or is that?
Septic is all to the rear of the house.
Okay.
There is another house, I believe, be 2 properties to the south of me that, they put a shop back of the property, similar to the area I'd be looking at. But they do have a little more frontage. I think it was the same deal. They, were told no on a approach off 80th, but, they've got a little more space to work with. The frontage on my lot is just, narrower than most.
Yeah. Well, because I'm trying to look and see if there was a second approach on Birchcrest, but now you're getting awfully close to the access point to 80th there as well, so.
That was kind of my concern, you know, coming off 80th, I think center of the intersection to, you know, center of my opposed approach would be somewhere around that 200-foot mark. And to come off of Birchcrest, I mean, we're 50 feet from the, you know, probably 30, 40 feet off the property line, which is, you know, I'm guessing 35 feet off the center line of 80th.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jesse? Commissioner Schwab?
Marcus, what is it 200 feet from an intersection or a center line that you can put an approach?
Commissioners, generally on new plats that we do from the property line would be about 40 feet. We've had various distances, but 40 is the minimum that we've kind of looked at doing. So in this case, 40 feet back from there, I would entertain something less than that because we don't have non-access lines. If it was a new plat, we would have a non-access for the 40 feet. So on this particular plat, it's up to what the board would feel would be adequate. So.
Well, and I'm looking at it as, you know, if you're stopping for traffic on 80th for a proposed second approach versus if you're stopping for traffic to turn onto Birchcrest, you're still going to be balling up traffic the same way. So, you know, it's a little bit of a stuck situation because if you're pulling a trailer or a camper in there, you're still going to be impeding 80th in the same fashion. So,
Commissioner Schwab? You have something?
Well, the trailer part concerns me because you don't turn them fast.
no.
And
I'm gonna swing wide.
I understand why the guy wants a second approach, but I can't. You know, we give one, we're gonna have to give more. And it's just not gonna, everybody would want a second approach as far as I can see here, or an approach.
Well, like,
Safety is lacking there.
yeah, that's where I'm at with it, Commissioners. When the people we hire to make our roads safe tell us it's not a good idea because of safety, I think that's pretty clear. Commissioners, anything?
Mr. Chair, I would actually move to deny the second approach.
Chair, I did have one more question for Marcus.
Commissioner Bakken?
So Birchcrest, where's the other access point on Birchcrest? Is that a loop or?
Yeah, if you look in your packet there, the second sheet of the packet for this particular item shows the plat. So Birchcrest runs down Bristol, West Bristol, and then
Okay.
comes out onto Highway 10. So it doesn't, well, you could come around on East Bristol, coming around that way to get back to 80th.
Okay. Because I'm just trying to look at where, from a safety perspective, because if he's, like, even if he was to put another approach on Birchcrest to be able to access the property and accessory dwelling in the back, you know, getting off of 80th would still be an issue because you're trying to make a tight turn. That's why I was kind of wondering if there's an opportunity for a second approach on Birchcrest because he can access from the other direction.
That's
So,
correct. He could come in from the other
It's a
direction.
little convoluted, but from a
Yeah.
safety perspective, because if you're waiting to turn and then you're trying to make that approach, you're going to be balling up traffic if you're pulling a longer trailer anyway. So that's, I was kind of trying to fish around to see if there was another amenable option, so.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Schwab?
Well, when you look at this plat, he could go down to that East Bristol Drive, go back up and around. That's a short way and have access to get in there actually through his driveway. I mean, and it's not a tight turn then. So I gotta stick to my guns on it, I guess.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Woodcox.
This is a motion to deny, correct? Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes. Sorry, Jesse.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. It's always tough. Okay,
Yeah.
next, WBI Energy right of entry request. WBI Energy. WBI
So
Energy in the room,
They should be on the phone call right now.
okay? Are you
We're on
there?
the phone call. I am. Yes.
Okay. You're on.
I'm Steve Cameron, and I'm working with WBI Energy. They have asked Burns and McDonald to begin right-of-way access for a pipeline that goes from Watford City over to Fargo. And it has to cross the Missouri River. If you have your maps in front of you, you can see where it crosses right there. It's a 30-inch natural gas pipeline. And what we're asking for right now is just permission to survey this area that crosses the it's a county board property right there. And so it's a right-of-way survey for 4 different surveys. One of them is archaeological, wetlands, biological, and engineering. So those would be the 4 surveys that we would be able to do to find out if that's going to be a logical place to cross the river. Currently, we're looking at a bore that would go underneath the property and not over it at all. So it would be strictly in below ground access on the property. If you'll see back on the right side, there's the setup for the bore right there, which we would be on boring from that side. So that's where the surface activity would take place right there, and then bore underneath the river at that point and come out on the other side. So that's our request at this point.
Okay. You know, the only concern I have with this is you're, on the one page here, you're showing crossing the river at that thing, and you referred to the pipeline on the map, but the pipeline on the map is going through Washburn, not there. So I don't see a map that indicates this pipeline going through the location you're talking about. Commissioner Bakken? Yeah.
Cameron, Commissioner Bakken, so for the purposes of just being able to access this for archaeological and other site surveys, one of the concerns that came up last commission meeting was about the boat ramp there. Will there be any disturbances to operations for the boat ramp?
No, I wouldn't see any reason for that at all.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the current map that we're showing you that's on the bottom is a very early map. It has been changed because we had some problems getting through some areas up by Washburn, and so we ended up putting a reroute down here on this lower area, which is actually a much better place for the pipeline to actually go through. It straightens out the pipeline, requires a little less disturbance on other properties. That's why there's a difference. That unfortunately I don't have a large map that shows the entire pipeline across the state that's going to show this location right here.
And it was my understanding that depending on what the surveys look like, that definitive map across the state isn't completed yet. That's why this is necessary for this the survey, correct?
That's correct. We're working on right now getting enough of the properties permitted so that we can apply for the FERC permit that we're looking to probably do next summer, actually apply for the permit, but you have to have several, I think it's 85% of all of your tracks ready to go before you can apply for that. And we're not at that point by far, and we won't be probably until late spring next year.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Schwab.
Well, I was going to ask him, this goes all the way to Fargo and down there to these data centers. Are they prepared to use eminent domain to get this done?
FERC does allow that to happen. WBI is not very keen on doing that. We've been going around a lot of landowners that require us not to be on their property, and consequently we're making reroutes like this in order to avoid as many of those problems as we can. There will probably be a percentage, a very small percentage, that will have to, it's kind of like any pipeline this large, there's going to be problems in some areas.
You didn't really answer the question. Are you going to use eminent domain if it's necessary?
As far as I know, yes, but that's a WVI question that I cannot answer. I don't actually work for WVI.
Okay, Commissioner Bakken.
I just wanted to kind of follow up a little bit on that, and correct me if I'm on the wrong train of thought of what you were thinking, but this is a project that has been in the works for the state for a long time, and part of the question with the data centers with this is the ability for them to produce local electricity not on the grid, which in the bigger picture of things saves us as ratepayers, because we just saw what the decision of the Public Service Commission was about a month and a half ago, and that opened up ratepayers for a lot of increased costs, which I'm not in agreement with. But that puts us in the position of subsidizing these grotesquely for-profit businesses, and the ability to have the natural gas and the gas lines, that allows them to produce power before it gets on the grid, which in the bigger picture saves us as ratepayers what could be immense numbers. So that's not the entirety of this project. It's been about mitigating flaring in the western part of the state and getting those assets off to the eastern part of the state where they're needed. But the data center piece is one that's popped up. But this also gives some of those entities ability to not be on the grid or pulling power off the grid, which is good for taxpayers, good for ratepayers. So it's just a little piece of the project, but in the grand scheme of things, it could wind up being a bigger piece of why it's a beneficial project.
I
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I understand what you're saying, but what concerns me is I believe they're asking for a $500 million guaranteed loan. And if I understand these guaranteed loans, if they decide it doesn't pay, they can walk away with it, walk away from it, and the state has to pay it off. And to me, okay, a survey, but I like MDU, I'm a customer of theirs. I do not like corporate welfare. And $500 million is a lot of money.
I don't know much about
Am I
that myself.
right
As
about
far
that?
as I thought that was a loan program. I didn't think
It's
it was
a
a
loan
grant.
program, but I believe they can walk away if it fails and then the state owns it.
Well, yeah, I think that's a little outside of our wheelhouse.
Yeah, it
But,
is.
I have a
I don't, personally, I don't have a problem with them accessing the place for surveying. And I don't have a problem with a pipeline going through, I don't have a problem with a natural gas pipeline going through Burleigh County. No citizens have asked me to oppose it, and I don't know that I would oppose it because I'm also a mineral owner and a mineral rights and whatnot, and I support coal and oil and that sort of thing for North Dakota. And I do think that this is a benefit to all of us as North Dakotans. I paid money out of my pocket to have a gas pipeline put into my property for the natural gas for service to mine. So I'm not opposed to that, and I'm not opposed to the surveying for it. Those other questions about the loans and such, that's way over my head.
Mr. Chair. if-
Commissioner Munson.
Just a question. So the possible river bore setup site that you're looking at, so we allow the survey to be done, but when it comes to construction, if I read the drawing correctly, you're boring from the east side of Highway 1804 underneath the river. So the question was asked earlier if this will shut down our boat ramp or cause any issues with the boat ramp. Based on this drawing, I would assume that through even construction, if the pipeline comes through here, we should not see any services halted at the boat ramp at all.
Right. I've been around some of those projects and seen it happen.
Yep.
I don't see a problem with that.
Yep. I would move to approve to allow the survey.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Munson,
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
I'm going to be a yes, but I really question this thing. Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox,
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. I certainly understand the question about the financing. That's not out of line at all.
Thank you, Cameron.
Sheriff Lieben, Burleigh East renovation.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I come before you tonight, kind of provide an update and also a situation we encountered, and we're going to need some guidance on how to proceed. So just to back up a little bit, we started this project several months back. They started with the lower level of what we call Burleigh East, the old highway department. I was up there today again. The progress has been significant on the lower level. It's actually looking very good. It's going to fit our needs once it's all completed. And we have vacated the upstairs and have put patrol temporarily out in a conference room at the jail. They're operating out of there. Our mechanic is still up in the building along with some of the other guys. But the upstairs has now begun the renovation. They're just in the tear out. So things are going well. Things are going on track. Unfortunately, this summer, with some of the significant rain events we had, we discovered a situation on that east wall, which, if you're familiar, that's that main parking area. That was the public entrance back when it was the highway department. So basically, once the gutting of the lower level took place, and then we had those rains, it was that one time where we got, I think, upwards of 6 inches of rain. We developed water in the basement of the building, which caused a concern because obviously as that lower level is going to get finished, with the indication that this had also happened prior, we knew we couldn't just continue on with the project. So at that time, I had contacted Commissioner Woodcox, my portfolio holder, Chair Bittner, as the chair of the commission, and kind of explained the situation. And we had worked with Jeff Ubel of Ubel Design and Jennifer, who works with Jeff, and basically to try and mitigate the problem. We had at that time been presented with 3 options on how to fix it. The first option was just to basically reseal it up as best we could, which we knew was a Band-Aid approach. The third option was to actually excavate some of the fill on the east side of the building, the sidewalk, the parking lot, get down and reseal that building up, put a membrane on it, and put everything back in. During that discussion, and that was kind of the decision made at that point to go forward with that. During some of the discussion on that parking lot, as some of that got dug up, and the fact that the drainage needed to be corrected, Jeff had felt that more work needed to be done than just that third option, because ultimately that wasn't really going to fix some of our issues with the design of that parking lot. A little background: since that building was built, there was planters in the sidewalk that have since been removed and concrete poured in there. And also, I believe shortly after the sheriff's department started occupying that building, there needed to be asphalt work done on the parking lot, and at that point, the asphalt was raised level with the sidewalk. So right now, if we don't mitigate some of these issues, really, the drainage, we can fix the building, but we're not fixing the drainage issue. So I'll let Jeff come up and speak to that, but at that point, I had basically set up a meeting again, brought Commissioner Woodcox in, Chair Bittner, and we sat down with Ubel Design and kind of talked through this with the ultimate plan to come before the commission. So at this, if you have any questions for me, if not, I'll have Jeff come up and speak.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
didn't we find underground water there too?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, not that I'm aware
Okay.
of. So at this point, and maybe Jeff can elaborate, I'm not sure if we really know where the water's coming from at this point. But the concern might be, it might be groundwater or it might be seepage. But I'll have Jeff come up and address it.
Good evening, Chair Bittner, Commissioners. Kelly did a great job explaining the situation that we ran into, and so I'm more or less here to answer any questions that you have. He did cover that it was around late May, beginning of June, when we discovered the problem, when we had the big rain. The problem was brought to our attention by the contractor. When we went out and took a look at it, there was, I'm going to estimate, about 12 to 20 spots, essentially holes in the foundation wall on the east side of the building that water was coming through. And this wasn't just a little dribble. I mean, you would have thought that you were standing in front of the fountain at the Bellagio in Las Vegas. It was that obvious. Water was rushing through.
Okay,
And so as
excuse me, Jeff.
Yep.
Tell me that in terms of the location of those holes.
The worst locations were where the planters were removed, which
Yeah.
there were 2 planters on the north and south
Yeah.
side of the front doors.
Right.
Those were the
Okay.
2 worst locations, and there was a variety of different spots on the wall. Generally
Right.
speaking, they were on the top half of the wall. So not at the top of the wall, but I'll say the top half of the foundation wall, and they were scattered throughout the wall. So it could have been instances that froze, where you had aggregate that popped out. Could have been a variety of different things. It could have been instances where there was rebar that rusted out that left a hole. Who knows?
Right. So we talked a little bit in that meeting about the depth of the footings and the depth of the foundation. How far below grade then would you imagine those holes were?
Well, the bottom of the footing from the top of the wall is 10'6", and so I would say that they were in the top 5 to 6 feet of that.
That's good news. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So,
Commissioner Schwab.
I was gonna ask you, Jeff, normally on walls like that and stuff, you get water coming down to the top and it gets saturated down below. Does that building need drain tile?
it's a good question, Commissioner
I
Schwab.
would guess it does.
From what we can tell from the existing drawings when it was built, it doesn't show anything being put on that wall, and it doesn't show any drain tile.
And I would bet if there's drain tile in there that would have been in there, you wouldn't have this problem, because now you got saturation under all that concrete and stuff, no way to dry it out.
Yes, and as Commissioner Woodcox mentioned, all we can do is observe what we see from the surface, which is that there's a bad drainage situation in the parking lot, and so there could be groundwater. We didn't do any of that investigation at this point. And so to your point, if there is groundwater that's saturating that, it's just going to contribute to the problem.
Well, if there is, instead of tearing everything out, you can put drain tile inside.
You can put drain tile inside, but I think they wouldn't eliminate the problem with the water coming through through the wall.
Okay, Commissioner Bach.
So potentially one of two issues here. Either it's the drainage issue and saturation, lack of drain tile, and landscaping issues, basically, or potentially groundwater. So reasonable confidence that it's one versus the other, because it needs to get mitigated, but without doing an overabundance of investigation, do we really know what the problem is? If I had to bet on it, I would probably say it's, heavy rains and we got a drainage issue and it's landscaping, but given the landscape out there, are we pretty confident of that?
Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Bittner.
I wouldn't make any bets on that right now, because we had that problem in a property I bought out here by the University of Mary.
Yeah, I remember
that one
that
up on the
problem.
hill, and we ended up excavating the entire place all the way down and put in drain tile and rock, and we blasted off the coatings, put new coatings and new this heavy dimpled plastic stuff that's custom for water infiltration, and that's when we found out that we actually had groundwater in addition to the drainage.
Yeah.
And then
Because
so we
that's
had
my
to-
concern
we had
on
to
this
excavate
is
and put in an interceptor trench to address that, because all our work would have been at risk. And
Right.
it was on our own property, so we don't know that yet, and I don't know that testing
I
it is
would be-
very easy, because we'd have to drill through the.
Because I would be remiss about, okay, we think we solved the problem, but it wasn't really a problem. Now we've got a building that we're still getting damage on that we're gonna have to fix as
Right.
well.
Right.
So I'm more comfortable if we identify exactly what the problem is before we move forward.
Yeah, that's a good point, because actually there's more of a problem yet, because we involved the city of Bismarck, and it sounds like there's some whole bunch of other things, the last I heard, were gonna be required of us if we start tearing into it. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, Bittner. So the first part is groundwater is fairly hard to predict, because this could be a situation where the groundwater was high when we had the rain, and we go drill a boring and we don't have any groundwater in it. But it doesn't mean that it's
And it
not
can
present.
move, yeah.
It just doesn't mean that we haven't found it, because you're talking about, 4 or 6 inch hole in that entire parking lot to try to find that groundwater. And so you might even miss it, depending upon where the boring's drilled. So the only thing we can go off is of what we've seen, and I can tell you that we for sure have an issue related to the drainage on the site. Whether there's a groundwater issue or not, we don't know. The only portion of the building that's below grade is this east wall. Everything else, if you recall the property, there's a retaining wall on the north and south side that hold back earth, which we are also seeing water go through that wall as well. In relationship to concerning Chair Bittner's comments regarding the city, given that the property is within the city, if we do tear the parking lot out, we have to go through the city process, which is site plan review, which requires multiple steps to go through. We've had preliminary conversations with the city to try to mitigate some of their requirements, just given the location of the property. But that's never a guarantee until you go through the permitting process and start having those conversations.
It just flashed through my mind is, we don't have to have a parking lot there, and we don't have to have building access off of that parking lot. Anyway, go ahead, Commissioner Schwab.
Why can't a person just go up there and bore it and find out what's there?
We could.
We got boring companies.
Yeah, I mean, we can do
Maybe the city's got a
geotechnical
broken
engineering.
water
You might
main.
not hit
Who
it.
knows that?
Fact is, you could bore in and put a drain pipe right under that, right under that entire sidewalk,
Well, the question is how deep do you have to put drain tile in is what it is.
Flush with the
Is
top
kind
of
of what it would.
footings.
So, as far as, I'm trying to think of cost-effective ways, as far as any LiDAR solutions, as far as water tracing and,
The only way to find it is to go look for it.
okay.
Yep. Which, In the case of this, we'd probably do 2, maybe 3 borings. We'd go certainly well below the finished floor of the lower level. So, 25 to 30 feet, just see if we can find it. The borings are going to cost, given that there's only probably going to be 3 of them, probably $2,500 to $3,000 a hole to do. That would at least give you some more information to work from. To make your decision. Now, I should say that we have talked with the sheriff, and obviously if we were going to do any of this work, we're not in the right time of year, so our immediate solution is to fix the joint along the side of the building to give yourself some time to work through this. But
Well, and the other question is, if we're doing that, then might as well go ahead and plan on putting drain tile that deep anyway. If you're gonna do the borings, because the trench isn't much more than what the borings would be.
Well,
for
it's
drain
easy
tile.
enough to install
Yeah,
drain
I
tile
mean,
with
basically, the question is gonna be how deep you have to put the drain tile.
I've never heard a drain tile be bored in.
No.
You have to open it all.
No, you trench it, but how deep?
It would be at the bottom of the
Yeah,
bottom of the
you'd have to
footing.
put it at the bottom. So if we're gonna go through the effort, because that would be the solution, no matter which problem we find. So I would lean towards just coming up with the solution to solve both problems rather than try to hope we got the right solution. I mean, it might be a little overkill, but it's still probably better money spent.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Munson?
One of the things that Jeff had said, we're at the wrong time of the year. Do we patch today, plan for April to do the work that we're talking about, whether it's drain tile, whether it's borings, whether the other issues? Do we patch today and wait for April to do the repairs correctly?
And what does that do to the rest of the project, though?
The lower level has been completed, and so this is one of those issues where it needs to be resolved, but it doesn't need to be necessarily resolved today. But you need to have a long-term plan for it, because you will run into the problem again.
Well, and part of the conversation too, while we were discussing this, is that we have some substantial projects going on right now, and budget-wise, this may not be a really good time to spend a bunch on this, but there's no doubt that we can do some caulking and whatnot. We've been doing my company's been doing a lot of caulking lately, and that's just not that complicated.
No.
I don't think we want to get started on a full-blown thing, because, we're not that far off from winter. But we certainly have to do something.
Because my concern
certainly
is we
some
put money
caulking
into the
and sealing.
building, and then if we wind up having to fix something we just put together, that's not good money after.
Right, well, I think we could
So, something to
overlay,
mitigate,
and I
yeah.
think we can seal, I could seal a whole bunch of that. Commissioner Schwab?
I don't think it would make a difference if you were gonna go ahead with boring. That could be done now, kind of give you an idea. You know actually what you've got pretty much. And weather is not gonna affect the time of season. You got water coming in now?
No.
Because if you have water coming in, you do your tests for city water and whatever. I don't think there's water in that area because the dump ground is way below that, the last pit they dug. I think it's the rain and stuff. I would guess if I was doing something like that, I'd want to open up them walls and reseal them and put a drain towel.
That's
I'm
what we
telling you,
did, yeah,
what you're
that's
gonna
a
end up
good
doing.
solution. However, it turned into, instead of a few 100,000, I think we're talking like $500,000 or better, or more. We haven't gotten to the end of what the city was gonna require or anything yet, so. I do think that we need to move ahead with some sealing and caulking and that sort of thing. That's a no-brainer to me, because that could be a problem this weekend again, or whatever, next time it rains.
Well, it's definitely gonna be a problem come winter thaw.
And there's
and
so
spring
many
runoff, so.
There's so many products available to do this. And first, I looked at that. I didn't have time to run a laser on it. I could do that. Check those elevations and find out. Maybe Commissioner Schwab and I could, do something with that.
Got a laser too. We could
and
have
get
a
an
laser
idea.
fight.
Yeah. Well, we can get a better idea of what's
Star
going on there
Wars.
too.
2 cats.
I think there's a lot of options, and there's certainly a lot of options for sealing it. That concrete where they're talking about those planters were.
Planters, yeah.
That's garbage. So it's going to be, maybe some kind of a flowable coating or something for that would be an answer. But we can look further at that. But I would look for a more permanent solution next year. As you go into the winter, we could look at plans and get bidding, because there's certain times of year that you're better off bidding.
Well, if that soil is wet, you're not going to get it dried out for compaction once you pull it down.
No, it'd have
You
to
don't
be
have enough
farmed.
sun,
No.
you don't have the sunshine.
Yeah.
Soil that's not dry very good, no. So you couldn't do anything this year anyway. So I think you're right, just try to patch it the way you can.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Woodcock.
we haven't really talked about how we're paying for this, but this, we could do it as an amendment to the original estimate and keep the same people and everything without going back and starting over and rebidding the whole project, which might be an option next spring. But for right now, I think we're looking to decide, what are we gonna do this fall to seal this up so we don't have a problem over the winter or the next spring? And then we'll go after it next year if we need to. But I don't know how much dollars we're gonna run over what our original estimate is, but it's kind of an open-ended contract, so to speak, but we do have to get it done. Whether they have to authorize us to give them the right to do what's necessary to get through, rather than coming back for another meeting and saying something else. So, you understand what I mean? No.
Sort of.
Mr. Chairman.
Well,
Commissioners,
we're just talking finances. We talked it before.
Yeah.
and maybe I can provide some insight here
Okay,
for you.
go ahead.
So basically, what I think the position we're in, and listening to you, and I think Jeff and I would agree, this has to be sealed up. Because basically, I think 2.5 months is what you figure the project will take, to get this going. So definitely, we're out of the window for this year. I guess what I would request of the board, I think we will have some money in the original budget, because we had set aside money to mitigate it with the membrane, and then we put that on hold. So that money's already allocated to this project. So I think we just go forward. I'm not worried about adding money at this point. If we are getting tight, I can come back before this board, but I think we'll have money in there.
Do a change.
What I would request permission is to work with Ubel Design. Obviously, this is, the question we discussed is, do you handle this as a change order to the original project, or do you rebid it? Just that as a separate standalone project. And I think we're all in agreement to rebid that part of whatever we get to mitigate this. We bid that project separate from the remodel. So what I would request permission is to negotiate with Ubel Design to also oversee this part of the project, because it is linked to the remodel project that this issue was discovered. So your option would be to handle this as a completely standalone project, but based on the price, we would have to renegotiate or re-advertise for architectural services and everything. Or we could look at it as an addendum to the original project and work with Ubel on that.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't know, I think the original project, we didn't have any excavators in it, did we?
No.
I think you gotta put it out for bid.
Yeah, it's a different, it's different.
No, they don't have the equipment to do it, so they're just gonna go out there and do the same thing, we might as well bid it.
Well, this kind of project,
They
your
become a
company or
middleman.
my company would have done.
And here's another thing that can be done. If you get down there and you find out you got water down below, you get a sump tank dug in and drain tile. You can fill that thing halfways up and run stacks up. And as you when you get compacted halfway up, you could run another drain tile. So you know you're catching the water. Now, I've done that, I haven't ever seen anybody else do it, but I tell you, that really works.
Yeah, we did that too.
Yeah.
On the Mary House, we ran, we actually made it so in addition to the drains, it's actually got those vent fan things that are actually drawing moisture as well, and drying it out underneath.
But it really works.
Oh, yeah, I know. So I think we're pretty much on the same page with what we need to do. We gotta get it caulked up and we gotta design a solution.
So I guess my
It's
question
sealed.
is, how do you want me to proceed? I guess I would like to work with Ubel Design and use our contractor that we've already got up there just to seal this. Is that what, or do you want to go out for bids to reseal it?
I
or-
just don't think
seal
it's
it,
gonna add very much at all to the, I mean, you
Just
know.
get it sealed and get us through winter.
I mean, we're
Yes.
not
Run off.
talking,
We're talking a few $100.
Yes.
yeah, I don't, you know.
Have to
it
get some
doesn't
of
seem
that
like-
Flex Seal that they're advertising on TV.
Well,
I tried it,
technically,
it
it's like
works.
that.
You know, that stuff
Technically,
does
it's
work
like
too,
that,
though.
because, you know, whether you use Sonolastic or you just whatever, it does, you know, he's not gonna have a problem with that, and it's gonna be really short. I mean,
Yes.
I think just
Yep.
do it for that.
Get it done.
Yeah. Do you want a motion for that, Kelly?
No, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
just directions. fine.
Direction,
Okay.
and we'll move forward with that.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Yep, thank you, Kelly. County Planning Director Flanagan, Sabbath Special Use Permit. Welcome, Mitch.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, in August, a public hearing was held with the Planning Commission to consider recommendations for moving a single-family house from 7801 52nd Street to 8251 52nd Street, a couple thousand feet north on 52nd Street. Moving a house or moving a building requires a special use permit, so that's what we're here for. The proposed house is 1,638 square feet and meets the minimum requirements for Article 12 as a single-family dwelling. The recommendation was a vote from 9-0 for approval. Burleigh County staff inspected the residence in July and determined that it was in good condition and it met building codes. It's a nice house. We also, the petitioner has applied and was approved a road approach permit from the county. And in the packet, there's a site location map of it, and it shows probably around 50 cars there. I went out there today, and the owner had previously moved those. This is an old photo from Parcel Viewer from probably 2024. Since then, all these cars have been moved, so.
Oh, so you're comfortable that that's not a problem?
Yeah, I went out there and took pictures. I was unable to upload them for tonight's meeting, but yeah, the cars are gone. The site's, everything fits. It's fine.
Okay.
I would move to approve the special use permit.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the special use permit. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Bakken?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Munson?
Yes.
Chairman Bittner?
Yes.
Thank
Motion
you,
carries.
Commissioner.
Thanks, Mitch. Missouri Valley Complex Committee Development and Operating Agreement.
Mr. Chair, Kayla Coe, who was going to present this tonight, sent me a message. She's got a family emergency, so she's asked Steve and I to present. At the August 20th meeting of the Missouri Valley Complex Committee, a request was made on behalf of the Equestrian and Ag Committee that the Missouri Valley Complex Committee support a request to establish a development and operating agreement with Burleigh County Commission for the Ag and Equestrian Center project at the Missouri Valley Complex. I spent a little time and talked with State's Attorney Lawyer as well, and she agreed that it would be good to have an agreement between both parties so that each group knows what their responsibilities are as we start bidding and putting this project together. So what I'm asking you for approval is to allow the Ag and Equestrian Center as well as the Missouri Valley Complex Committee and myself to work with the State's Attorney Lawyer to draft up this development agreement bring back that agreement to you for your approval. So tonight is just a request to allow us to create that document.
And I think what it does too is provides an opportunity for the commission to get a better picture of what that facility as a whole will look like for the benefit of Burleigh County residents.
Yep.
Well, I talked to Ellen about this before the meeting. The Century Code says you will be a fairground, nonprofit fairground board to do this. And the problem that I see here, you're trying to do something that probably shouldn't, that isn't going to be done right. And from my research, committees cannot make agreements with, like the county, unless there's some changes involved. Would I be right? I'm at Century Code 1125 or 1139.
Oh, you're throwing around big numbers.
What's that?
Nothing, I'm just joking. Never.
But what I'm getting at is whether, I'm for this or against it, it's got to be put out and it's got to be done that way. Now, if you don't, you can run into some trouble because there's an advisory committee, well, they have no authority.
Correct.
Right, and it comes back to us.
So then you have to go, you can advise us, but you can't get in agreements.
Correct.
And you're asking for
Exactly.
agreement, so you need to change that board over to a nonprofit.
No, my understanding is what they're asking for is, so there's an entity that wants to put an equestrian park at that location. And so the development and operating agreements would be between them and the county commission. And so the advisory board is asking whether or not they have permission to work with me as the liaison between the two entities to give me the information that I need to present a development and/or operating agreement on behalf of the commission with this other entity, not the actual board themselves entering into the development agreement or the operating agreement.
See, that's the rub. That's going a wrong way around the barn, and that's what I'm worried about. I don't know, why do we need this?
Well, for me personally, I think it's very important that the county, manages the construction project, right? So this is a building that's gonna be built
City should have
on,
to.
but it's a building being built on county property, which will end up being county property at one point. I wanna make sure the bidding goes through our system. I wanna make sure the construction is managed by our staff or by the county. I want to make sure that we're all in agreement as we're moving forward, that even though they're raising the money for this, this is managed by us. This is something we're going to make sure is done according to how we want it done.
Great example is so we don't run into a situation like the 4-H building currently is under.
Yeah, you build it, you give it to the.
Exactly.
Well,
This is
that's what I'm
ours.
worried
We're
about.
gonna,
That's exactly what
that's
I'm
not
worried
gonna
about.
happen. That's why we're putting
No
this in
way.
place. That's why we're putting this in place to prevent issues like that happening.
Yep. Yeah, I think we
So
need to
this
make
is
sure
for
that-
Burleigh County
We
residents.
need, Al could probably speak to this, but we need to move out of that 4-H building. I'm sick and tired of looking at that $6,000 rent every month.
Well, and that's part of the discussion, is if we're managing the project and we're doing the right project, so we can encompass the 4-H and whatever that building needs to look like.
Because 4-H is requested access to be able to
Yes.
have their programming, and that's part of why we want to build this
Yeah,
facility.
that's why we
is-
want to do this with us managing it
Right.
and do it correctly, so that we can figure out what are the components that need to be put into that building. Is there a 4-H component? Are there other county entities is it the extension? We want to give all those access and the ability to locate those
Yep.
there with the right project.
And I think this agreement that Julie will help write protects the county the most.
Correct.
Well, the thing there, I'd like to help with this thing, and I will, but in that agreement, the original agreement was this was not gonna be built with county funds, and I'm gonna.
Correct.
live
It's not
right
gonna be
to it.
built with county
It's not going to be built with county
But
funds.
as far as helping, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't want it to be
But it's gotta be
operated
very
with
clear.
Correct, correct.
This
And
will
that would
solid-
be the purpose of doing
This
an
was-
operational and a developmental agreement.
This will solidify who's got what and who's in charge of
Yep.
what and
Just
how
to
we
make sure
proceed.
we're protected.
Yep.
Yep. So I would move that we ask the state's attorney to work with the entities to create the development operating agreement that will be brought back to Burleigh County Commission for approval.
Second.
Yeah, motion is second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Oh, boy. Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
No. Just for the heck of it.
Well, I knew that was gonna happen,
Well,
so.
you know, before we get off this thing, what's confusing on this, you got the horse committee and the
Missouri Valley Committee.
and they're, one asks the other, which comes up, and this is what we have to avoid.
Yeah, I
we
think
don't
it's,
know
I think
what
it's
the
getting
hell
too
is going on.
convoluted here. I think we've experienced some mission creep out there.
Well,
But anyway,
Votes taken.
it'll come before the county commission.
Correct.
At
Yep.
some
Oh,
point
yeah.
in the future, and I
You
think
bet.
with the state's attorney involved, we're good, so. We'll move on, continued ETA discussion. Did you, I didn't have that.
Did you have an opportunity to watch last night's meeting?
I did not.
Okay,
So,
so.
and I tried watching it live, 'cause I had time, but it got preempted by Mandan City Commission meeting on Dakota
okay.
Media Access. So.
So it was later. It was scheduled to start at 5 o'clock, not 4 o'clock, because we wanted to open it up for more residents. Had a great sampling of county ETA residents, voiced a lot of different concerns, had an opportunity to go through those, and we're looking at, Mark, what was that date again? Do you recall?
It is Wednesday, September 17th at 5 o'clock.
Okay, so we would like to reconvene both commissions. The city's put out a map and a potential viable pathway to get about 95% of the county ETA residents out of the city's jurisdiction. They're more concerned just about their land issues. We need to reconvene the entire commission to go through what that plan looks like so that we can put our input. Mitch and I had spoken to, we would like to put together a ETA service committee to bring into some different entities. That is an opportunity to put that together at that commission meeting as well, the joint commission meeting. But we actually had a pretty good discussion and some pretty good action items moving forward on how to mitigate what the concerns for the county and the residents of the ETA look like. One of the things I pushed the city on that really the place we need to get to is the city's comfort level with allowing us to manage county property that currently resides under the ETA so that the city has a comfort that the permitting, the zoning, it all matches and we're doing what the city would be doing anyway, but we're gonna save our residents money. So.
And headaches.
And headaches. So that's where we're trying to get to. But Commissioner Munson was there last night. Mitch was there and had an opportunity to broach the planning on this. But we're moving in the right direction in my. Now it's a question we need to get back together as a full commission. Now what that's also going to provide is if we can get to that level where that comfort level exists, some of the roadway issues will clear themselves up. Them vacating the areas that were on the partial map that we got to see last night are going to mitigate what we do with the roadways, what we do with water issues, and it's going to be a better scenario than what we're currently sitting in. But the next step is who's available and reconvene both commissions again. Because I think, and Commissioner Munson, you can probably back me up on this, I felt really good after last night's meeting that we're going in the right direction.
I will back you up on that because I felt a lot better last night than I did the last meeting, even though I wasn't in attendance, I was listening. I found a lot of value in last night. As you said, I appreciated the residents that came to speak, to give us the 4 instances so that we have more items to look at. I was very impressed, and again, I wish it would have been a bigger map, but we got a partial map of their thought process of what they would eliminate from, again, it would be another negotiated line, but it would be a lot smaller than what we're currently dealing with. And so I was very happy with the outcome of that meeting.
Not a foot, Commissioner Schwab?
I was
but
just
but,
gonna
it,
ask.
but there's some areas that it's less than a foot.
Good
Well,
job.
you know, really,
I'm
the point
still
is, we
fine.
don't want to leave any citizens behind.
No.
No.
You know, we just don't want to do that. So we got to make sure that citizens that are outside the city limits have the kind of thing that we understand that they're concerned about.
Well, and that's the comfort level side.
But
That's why.
before I forget, I did get an email from, I think it was a Hay Creek Township supervisor, that if we're going to do some sort of a committee, and I hate committees, I just think it's, we need to probably meet again as a joint city-county commissions.
And that would be discussed at that next meeting.
There was a township supervisor that said if we do create a committee, that she would like to volunteer to serve on that from a township perspective. And I think that would be fine,
That would be
but
very
I'm not
advantageous.
suggesting we do a committee, but.
No, more of a working group to
Yeah, I don't know
work
that
on
we
some
need
of the
that.
negotiations.
I think we all have a pretty good understanding of what the issues are and what we
We
need to
do.
hammer out. Well, we're the ones that
We
are gonna
do,
be making
yeah.
the agreement with the city, so.
I think you're right on this. I mean, we're at the point where we should concentrate more on moving forward, because we're gonna have to set timelines up, and when all this stuff happens, and we don't wanna just.
No, and I just don't think we need to
we're
have
just not quite
committees
ready.
involved. I think this is at the commission level already.
Yep.
And I think we work it out between the two commissions, because we're all talking about the same citizens here, so.
Yeah, and I don't like committees for the simple reason, which brings up another thing about your committee. I can't find videos on the meetings.
They're being taken.
Well, they're not being put up.
Okay.
Well, I had a conversation with one guy today, and I haven't been able to find him either.
No, and it's supposed to be, we were promised sound
Yeah.
and video. And nobody, I've had calls, and I've kind of ignored them, but I shouldn't be, because I said, well, they're gonna get up eventually, but boy, they haven't been up for a long time.
Yeah,
And it's
and-
time to
and,
get that squared up.
And we're not gonna be leaning on IT or the emergency manager for babysitting this stuff. For whatever reason, it has not been happening.
I will work with Auditor Sponskowski to make sure they get up.
Okay.
And make it easy for them to go to the website
Yep.
and find them.
I'm gonna add something here under other business when we get there. Anything else on this particular topic? I think it's great. I think the next step is simply schedule another.
Okay,
If-
and
If they're providing a map and you've seen it, and we're.
Auditor Sponskowski will be sending out that invite to see who's available for that, and the 17th again, right, Mark?
Correct.
Yeah.
In fact, I've spoken to every single commissioner, yet, except for Chairman Bittner. I haven't spoken to him yet.
Okay, because that's what worked out with the city. If we can work that out with us, then.
What are you, September?
17th.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I don't
5
need
o'clock.
that. I don't need it.
So, if you want to post that and get back to Administrator Tomanek and get that squared away.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Good, we're moving forward. Commissioner Woodcox, you had an item for budget discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just put it on there because our final budget is next meeting, which is the 21st, I think. And we haven't made any changes from the preliminary budget that we presented a month ago or whatever. And I've revisited my portfolios, and I have no changes I want to make or anything. But if we're going to make them, we just have to have it on the agenda to do something if necessary. But as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing I want to change. I don't know about anybody else, but
Oh, I think there will be some changes.
Yeah.
pardon me?
There will be some changes.
I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Gonna have to be.
There's gonna be changes, some pretty big ones coming at the final meeting.
And that's my
That
point,
I'm
is
gonna-
why,
that I'm
my
gonna-
point is, why do we wait till the final meeting to do it, where we could be?
Well, everybody's aware of this garrison diversion, that's gonna come up. And I'll tell you, the other one that's gonna come up is break apart for this health department.
Oh, see, that's something we should be discussing, not wait till the last minute and then
Well-
have a critical vote and we don't know what we're really doing.
The
That's
county, well, let's discuss it. The county needs their own health department.
Okay, I'm gonna be late for dinner.
You gonna resign?
No, he's gonna be late for dinner.
And the reason for that is when the health department director was here, she wouldn't answer questions, and she didn't get what she wanted. Instead of running around the barn, she went right through it to the city and used us as a bank, promised them money that are in our accounts to pay half of it back to the city once she gets it. Well, the problem is, she's not authorized to make them kind of decisions. So, if she wants to hand out needles, spaces to shoot up, and do all of this crap, I'm not gonna support that, and I think we should cut that budget, period. I mean, if you can go and you can waste $50,000 of county money and city money to get an approval to do something that's not gonna happen, they're not looking out for the taxpayer, and what she said at the end of the meeting, everything runs through her department, like, hey, no matter what you say, wow, that was pretty condescending, arrogant, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I would not put up with that. So that's one that needs to be cut. We shouldn't, and besides that, they want to double that budget? That's crazy. We should cut it, start our own health department. And then we don't get stuck in this building down here that's falling apart. So, there are my two main things. You might make dinner yet.
No,
Well, you asked.
Unless,
I'm just.
Well, if you want to
Wait
discuss
and
that
see.
point, we can, but we're required by Century Code to have a health department, so we do it, if we start our own, then we're talking about nurses and management and secretaries and a building, and you're talking a lot of money, which we have to discuss. We want to do that, that's fine.
Right.
But we've got to be aware of what we're doing before
The
we
city,
go.
well, I think the city can have their health department. We can take care of the county. We can move a couple of nurses in a secretary in the Provident Life building, and everything will be well. And
Well-
it isn't like we're gonna spend $2 million to do this. Maybe we have to hire 3 people, but when I look at that budget and the way this commission was treated, 540,000 is what their budget was, they believe, and she wants to go up 500,000. We can afford to run our own health department. And if city people come over and want to use it, we let them.
They're all Burleigh
you're
County
not Burleigh
residents.
County residents,
but-
so yes.
Yeah,
But
I would echo a comment and the concern about the treatment of the county commission there with those kind of remarks I thought were out of line.
that was so arrogant and in your face.
And I think I told everybody that, after that, we were talking about a comprehensive plan. I literally went to Grok AI and then typed in that community-based drug addiction treatment triage center comprehensive plan. And in less than, I don't think it was 10 seconds, it had a complete comprehensive plan for that exact thing for free. I mean, it was many pages. It addressed to me, it looked totally complete. It didn't cost anything, so I don't know where I don't know.
Well,
I just
I
think
think-
we're spending money unnecessarily, and furthermore, Burleigh County has more of a need for enhanced programs, enhancing existing programs within our own detention facilities for the people that we actually have custody of, and people where I believe that we can make a difference in people's lives by enhancing existing things within our walls, rather than going off on something, because, while a triage center and something may have merit, the fact is, until somebody wants help, they're not gonna accept help.
Right.
And so, I think that we're better off, because it's such a limited pool of money. I mean, we're not talking even a couple $100,000.
Well, and it
sitting
overlaps
there,
that
and you
low
don't.
barrier shelter model, which
Yeah.
is,
I mean, that amount of money isn't gonna do anything but commit more money in the future, so, and that's money that's gonna come out of taxpayers' pockets, and I'm not sure they're ready for that bite, but I do know that amount of money can be used to enhance existing programs that will make a difference in people's lives. Correct. That we know about, so I'll get off that subject right now. Anybody else have anything they wanna add?
No, I started enough trouble.
Okay. Yeah, you made me late for dinner. Thanks.
well, and my portfolios are good as well. I've gone through them with a fine-tooth comb. We're good, and we're lean. But Commissioner Woodcox brings up a great point. Those discussions should happen before the final budget meeting. We should have those discussions at the table to start addressing areas of, what are some of the concerns other commissioners may have with certain budgets and certain portfolios as far as the finances, because it makes for a much painless night on the final budget night. That being said, one of the things you and I discussed, and I believe you're already working on that, is some sort of a punch list from Lee for us on the final night. It would have been nice to have been able to take a look at that. I know time
I
constraints.
dropped the ball, I just
Yeah,
forget about
I know
it.
time
I forgot to
constraints, but,
mention it, too.
that would have been a good discussion a month out or so leading up to the budget, but we'll get to it on the budget night.
Yeah.
But having that to be able to work off of, and where our finance director has found some holes, such as the boat ramp in Driscoll and things like that we need to address.
We have something in the budget, if you look at it.
Yeah.
We got
A boat ramp
a
in
boat ramp at
Driscoll?
Yeah.
Right.
But
Miles
things like
with
that,
water.
that our finance director can bring to the table as a punch list and go, okay, yeah, we don't need that. Here's some of the areas
I
we can
think-
save money for taxpayers.
He and I were
Yeah.
already having discussions about that, and I think it's fair for him to be able to just provide information for informational purposes.
Correct.
I just didn't ask him to do that yet, so.
Yeah.
I'll work with Leon.
But I know last year, we also started a month ahead of time and
Yep.
literally made motions at this table to remove things from the budget.
Yeah, as we got into
And I
it.
liked that last year because it gave us, that final night wasn't such a mass of group.
And it gives us an opportunity to do a little research when needed.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you
'cause-
wanted to schedule a special meeting or something.
We already got one
in
next
between
week.
here.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, it gives our department heads a chance to defend themselves as to what they're proposing or whatever.
Yeah.
Correct.
We don't want to wait till I really don't want to wait till the last minute, and we've got 10, 15 departments that we have to settle one at a time, and that's going to be very, very difficult. We can
Well,
always have a special meeting after the 17th. We got to
Yeah,
approve
we
it
got
by
until
what?
October 5th
Right.
or 7th.
Whatever the October date is. We do have a couple weeks left, so.
Yeah.
But we're not infallible either, so if we go ahead and cut something and a department head can validate it, and, we don't catch everything on the surface either. So that does give some recourse for department heads to be able to state their case and state their position, and why, I would hope, in the long run, that's gonna wind up saving county money. So sometimes you have to spend money to save money, but, so that gives a recourse for department heads.
But Chair, I do like your idea, our final budget hearing is next meeting, but we don't have to have our final budget until the first part of October, so we can have another
Right.
special meeting afterwards
Yeah.
to finalize some of those details.
We've got time yet.
Yep, yep.
It's just that we're required to put out notice and do all these things, and frankly, if people are gonna attend that budget hearing, I'd like for them to be able to hear the things we actually talk about. And,
Yep.
you know, not everybody catches every one of these meetings. Okay, anything else on that subject?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab?
At the final budget hearing, we can still cut the budget, right?
Oh, sure.
So the
Yes.
thing is, Mark and I are working on this garrison diversion. That would be kind of, hopefully an eye opener when we get done, but we weren't ready to bring it tonight.
Sure.
So you're aware
The-
that I will not vote for the budget if garrison diversion gets a dime.
Well, let's talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because to be honest with you, gentlemen, what are they gonna do if we don't? You know, we could have it in the budget, but just don't send them any money. What are they gonna do?
Well, I would hope that you loop state's attorney lawyer into that conversation, because there are.
She's been,
Okay, so,
she's been warned.
okay.
It isn't gonna be pretty, but it's somebody's, we gotta do it. I mean, why are we giving them
Well, here's part of the reason.
$700,000 for
here's-
nothing?
Yeah, here's part of the reason why I agree with you on that. There's more reasons than this, but when that garrison diversion was originally set up, there was a specific thing that they were doing in the law, that's what the counties agreed to support. This was irrigation water for counties. And sometime later, according to information from Commissioner Schwab, there was a mission change where they went into this recreation funding and this other stuff that really has nothing to do with the original mission. It has to do with, I don't know, justifying their existence, or, you know, because they're not getting any more water to any place. Now, if we were like over in Montana, where you've traveled around in Montana and they got literal canals and little ditches and things sending water everywhere to all these farms and all this stuff. That's not happening here. So all of this money, and what is it, a mill or
One
two?
mill.
Yeah, 1 mil.
1 mil.
1 mil.
700.
And essentially, we'll get $13,000 towards a picnic shelter or something someplace, or maybe,
Pickleboard.
you know, because a mill is 770, 700, whatever, thousand. And City of Bismarck Parks and Rec's got, what, $160,000 irrigation project out of that?
That never happened.
Well, and then it never happened, right? Well, the money got spent elsewhere
And he
on
wouldn't
something
tell
else,
us
right?
where, so
Well,
there you are.
and so the point is, why have it? Why spend that kind of money? I mean, what's the worst gonna happen?
Well, and that brings up another question, why you have to always be guarded about tying future commissions' hands
Yeah.
to decisions
That's,
you make at
that's,
the
that's
table.
that's my next subject here under
And
other
that's
business, by
why.
the way.
That's exactly why.
That's exactly why, because, see, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it if we were actually getting the irrigation water as promised under the original agreement. What the problem is that they changed their mission.
Well, the
So,
other-
wait a minute,
go ahead,
Commissioner Woodcock.
go ahead.
Like public health.
One thing we have not even talked about, if you read the paper or listen to the news, they're putting in northwest of Fargo, one of the great big, what do they call them, AI centers, whatever it is. It takes a lot of water. Now, where are they gonna get it from? Red River. Well, if Garrison Diversion is pumping water from the Missouri at our expense, we're getting nothing out of it. And they're pumping it over to put it into the Cheyenne River, which runs into the Red River,
Yep.
to give them water. I mean, then we're really
Well,
donating, so
Yeah,
to speak.
Right?
the point to look at, and it's so obvious, the federal government has abandoned that project. And I remember way back when I was young, everybody, you got a Democrat, Republican, were always voting, you gotta get that garrison diversion. You remember them days? That was the big topic all the time. The state, I don't think does anything. They abandoned it and use it just for a pass-through for projects to make them relevant. So you got an office in Minot and Garrison and Bismarck. What do they need offer for? They don't do anything. But they can collect this. They're an autonomous government using us to collect their taxes is basically all it is. But if the federal government says, hey, we're out, well, stick us with it. Come on.
Yeah. Well, it looks like that's what's happening. Okay, we pretty well beat up on that, Commissioner Whitcomb.
I know, I'm on the water board, so I sit right next to the water guru of North Dakota. He is outstanding, just great. He is a big supporter of Garrison Diversion. I think he sits on the board. I would like to invite him here to have him defend Garrison Diversion, because there's a lot of things that they do that we don't know. And I'd like to.
That they don't want us to know.
Well, that could be whatever, but he knows everything about it. Whether he wants to do it or bring in somebody from Garrison Diversion hierarchy, I'd love to have them come here.
Certainly make them aware of it. And see
Okay, I'll do that.
Because otherwise, I think I know what I'm doing. Okay, other business. I saw an ad in public notices today that talks about cutting weeds and grasses, weeds and tall grasses in the highway right-of-ways. And if that's not done, that the cost will be, it'll be done and the cost will be put back on people's taxes.
Right.
And then what concerned me is that on the bottom it says by order of the Burleigh County Commission. And you've been here a long time, and I've been here a long time, and we've never discussed that.
No.
Never heard of that.
That's not.
You've never
our
heard of it,
county
right? And so I'm
That-
wondering, how do we have a notice to the public by order of the Burleigh County Commission that
Mr.
we've
Chairman.
never, Commissioner Whitcomb?
I know that's a city ordinance, and the city does that because my dad had some property. He never would mow the weeds.
Yeah.
He waited for them to do it and just added on to his taxes, and
Yeah.
he was comfortable with that. But that may be a city notice and not a county notice.
No,
Maybe
it just
that
said
may
by
have-
order of the Burleigh
I know
County
it does,
Commission.
but that may be a mistake. Because I've never heard of it. We've never
Yeah,
done anything like that.
That's what I mean, I've never.
No.
So that's a standard notice that's been sent out every single year by the commission or by the auditor's office via the commission. It happens every single year. It's required by law to send that out. Now, if the commission wants to change how it's written, or there can be different deadlines, the deadline can either be at the end of September or in October. If the commission wishes to change how that has functioned, they certainly can. But that's basically a form that's been sent out annually every year.
Well, my point is that it is not by order of this commission at this point, because none of us have voted on that thing.
Is that a state
So
law?
just to, I don't know.
I'll review that and send it over to you, Commissioner.
I know the city enforces it, whether it's
In the city, yeah.
City,
But
yeah.
what I'm talking about in the counties and the townships and whatnot, because it makes it sound like we're out there telling people, you better get your mowing done.
Well, I think
Well,
that might be a state
the county
statute.
does- the county does the top cuts on all of our roads anyway, and that's a safety thing. And so I'm not sure what we're even talking about by asking somebody to mow something. Now, weeds, I can understand if you don't want them to, spread seeds and whatnot all over the countryside, except that there's ditches at my land where you can't mow it.
Yeah.
I mean, my machines slide off them. I've got some pretty good machines, and then they can't be mowed, so I don't know.
That's in Century Code Chapter 63.
Well, we don't have to enforce that. We can't.
Well, we never
But
approved it.
We get hung.
You know, it's a notice that says by order of Burleigh County Commission. So, I don't think we need something being published that's by order of the commission that we never even considered, so.
Should be by order of North Dakota State.
Well, that's depending on, I don't know, but I just wanted to bring that up. It's the only thing I had. Anybody have any other business, Commissioner Bucket?
We will get you out of here in time for dinner,
I
unless
don't-
there's a representative of Summit Carbon Solutions here. And there's not. Okay,
Trent,
thank you.
we have one more.
I'll tell you what, I hear one's coming next week. I'll give him off.
Chair Bittner, there was a malfunction with the door lock, and there was a citizen that was attempting to get in and could not get in till later. And I do believe there is a topic he wishes to speak on
Okay.
yet.
Oh. Okay. Why don't you come on up and identify yourself? We thought we had that lock situation under control.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks
It
for
wasn't raining, was it?
listening to me. This will take 3 minutes. My name is Bill Keene. I live on High Ridge Drive, which is north of 1804 on Ridgeland Drive. And I want to thank the commission for making plans to redo those roads. I think that's really good. I support you 100%. The other thing is, if you go on Ridgeland Drive north out of 1804, there's 2 culverts there. And the intake on each culvert is 2 feet below the elevation. The discharge is 2 feet below the elevation. And there's big holes there. Now, I don't care about that. It doesn't affect me. What I'm curious about, is there any liability if a child goes into those holes and drowns? So anyway, I took some pictures of this. I'll give them to you. You can.
Well, Marcus will go up there and check that out.
Yeah, well,
Anyway,
if there's a safety concern, we dang sure want to know about it, so.
Pardon?
I say if there's a safety concern, we dang sure want to know about it, and we are now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, anyway,
I see what he's talking about.
about a year and a half ago, I was on my way home. There's a little boy coming down the ditch. Stopped my car, jumped out, I grabbed him. He's about 2.5, said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Grandma's." I looked around. So I picked him up and started walking up the hill, went from house to house. Sure enough, when Grandma came to the door, she about fell over. This whole thing about the culverts doesn't bother me, doesn't do anything, but I think for safety and liability to the county, you might be interested in that. Anyway, that's all I had to say, and
Okay,
thanks
thanks
for
for
listening to me.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. That's a big deal. Marcus, understand where he was talking about? Okay. Thank you. Any other business?
I think these are pretty much the same. There's one that I'm gonna give to Marcus that you guys first went around. Are we adjourned?
No? No. Mark's got one.
We need,
All right, Chairman and Commissioners, it's that time of year where the commission needs to assign a delegate to the North Dakota Association of Counties Annual Conference. That's going to be held on October 26th through the 28th here in Bismarck. So if it does help, I did talk to Missy Hansen, the Burleigh County Recorder, who has been the delegate in years past. She did give me permission to nominate her.
we'll volunteer.
I'm going
Commissioners?
as well, so either or.
Well, they suggest to assign a delegate and a alternate.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm already signed up, so I can be the alternate.
All right.
I would approve her.
Okay. I don't think we need a motion for that, do we?
No.
Yes, we do. In
Yeah.
fact, we
All right.
do.
Motion to approve her.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve Missy in absence. Any further discussion?
She's not here to defend herself, so.
Sorry if this upsets you, Missy. Okay. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Schwab.
Yes.
Commissioner Woodcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Munson.
Yes.
Commissioner Bakken.
Yes.
Chairman Bittner.
Yes, motion carries. Congratulations, Missy. Great campaign. Anything else for the good of Burleigh County? We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.